Hi everyone, my name is Sam Halloran, and today we're going to talk about reading instruction for students with disabilities. I chose this topic because as a basic skills and a special education teacher, I really want to gain more knowledge in how to instruct my students with disabilities to ensure that they are being successful in the classroom. So, let's jump right in. We're going to start with the problem. These percentages and stats are pretty alarming. 38% of 4th graders and 29% of 8th graders are reading below basic levels. And many of these students have not acquired the basic reading skills that are for their grade level. This is because needs are unmet due to insufficient types or amounts of reading instruction. So these students are not getting the correct amount of instruction, the correct instruction that they need, and the correct amount of time they need in order to master those skills. But with a problem, there's always a solution. We can target reading skill areas that are in need of intervention or further assistance. It's important that as teachers and instructors, we need to find the cause of discrepancy in order to find the solution and gain success for the students. Once a problem has been identified and expressed in the difference between expectations and actual performance, the problem needs to be analyzed in terms of what is causing the discrepancy. So, we have to be solution focused. We need to identify the problem and target that problem with direct instruction. So, a model for preventing failure in K through 3. It's 3 steps. You increase the quality, consistency, and reach of instruction in every classroom. Then you can conduct timely and valid assessments of growth to identify struggling readers. Last, you can provide more intensive interventions to catch up the strugglers. So this is similar to an RTI model, which we'll talk about. I just want to jump inside the classroom for a second. I interviewed my Aunt Joanne, who is a retired teacher and reading specialist, and she has over 40 years experience. We discussed individualized instruction, and she discussed how she did it when she was in the classroom. She would spend the last 25 minutes of the day picking individual students to check up on their daily C work. The students were not permitted to pack up until that paper was perfect. She gave the student 2 independent tries, and on the 3rd try, she would assist. But many times, this went beyond the regular school day. But it was also a great motivator, and every time a child came to her desk, they were able to build a deeper relationship. So not only did it help them read, but it also helped them develop a deeper relationship with their teacher, which is also vital in a classroom. So, I mentioned how a model is close to the RTI model. We have to think about it in terms of tiered interventions. And of course, we have to implement scientifically supported instructional methods with fidelity. And I'm going to stress with fidelity, because if we do not implement these with fidelity, we will not get correct data, and we will not be able to push our students to succeed. So, let's talk about Tier 2. This is usually small groups, the increase of intensity, precisely targeting students' most critical needs, and increasing the explicitness of instruction. From Tier 2, the students that are not succeeding and are still struggling will move to Tier 3. This is intensive, strategic, and customized. It's usually a one-on-one or a very small group of no more than 3 kids. It's extended beyond the time allocated for prior interventions. These kids are really getting a lot of interventions and a lot of implementation of these scientifically supported methods. So now we're going to jump into teaching reading skills. How do we as teachers teach reading skills? One great thing is to model and think aloud. So we're going to watch a video describing modeling and thinking aloud.
Resources on the market. The other thing that skilled readers do is they monitor their reading. It's like, where did this come from? Who is this person? You need to pay attention to those when you're reading if you want to get meaning out of the text. Now, some people just keep on going, and those are the ones that blow the comprehension test at the end. But you need to know, I need to go back. So that's a good thing to model. You know, when you're reading a book aloud, that's the perfect time to think aloud about your own comprehension.
My students struggle mostly with comprehension. It is a skill that I'm constantly trying to tweak so that I can reach all of my students, especially the struggling students. This year, Alpha had grown like a weed, Mama said. He couldn't get his feet into his old shoes one way or the other. It says Alfred has grown like a weed. I know that weeds were something that I find in my garden, and I know that weeds grow really tall, but I've never thought of a kid as growing like a weed.
So, as you can see, modeling and thinking aloud is a very productive and very explicit way of teaching reading skills. I personally am a big advocate of modeling in the classroom. Before I ever send any of my students to work, I model exactly what they're supposed to be doing, whether it's a word-solving strategy or a comprehension strategy. I'm constantly modeling so that they could see the exact motions and exact strategies being taught. So now we're going to jump into some of the various interventions. We're going to start with word identification. Word identification interventions must be explicit and systematic. They're in all capitals for a reason. It is vital that they're explicit and systematic. They also must be taught in a predictable order so that students can build upon their skills. For example, you learn your letters, then you learn your letter sounds, then you learn rhyming, then you learned segmenting and sight words. They all scaffold on one another. On the right-hand column, the right side column, you can see some interventions that have been found effective and are research-based for word identification. You can use word sorts, which include word boxes and letter tiles, letter sound association, use of picture cues, and small group instruction. Moving on to fluency interventions. So students with a learning disability in reading are likely to have a deficit in the areas of phonics and fluency. So we need to keep in mind that fluency acts as a bridge between word identification and comprehension. So without word identification, we will not have fluency, and without fluency, we will not have comprehension. On the right-hand side, you can see some interventions. Word sorts is in it again because 55% of teachers surveyed use this strategy and have found it effective. Other interventions for fluency are choral reading, echo reading, repeated reading, which I'm a big fan of because it helps create a challenge and really help them build their fluency and their self-confidence when reading. And once again, fluency interventions need to be explicit and directly modeled. Moving on to comprehension interventions. I have a quote that says, "Phonemic awareness, phonics, and fluency are steps that need to be in place so that comprehension will have a strong foundation." Like I previously said, we cannot have comprehension skills if we do not know how to read. So, comprehension interventions should be direct instruction, strategy instruction, vocabulary instruction so that they are actually understanding the words that they are reading. And you can use semantic webs, story webs, response cards, and have the students paraphrase text to help build their comprehension skills. So, I want to leave with a success story of my Aunt Joanne again. Teaching first grade offers great pride to the teacher. Taking these children who barely know their alphabet and having so many of them reading fluently by April is a warm and gratifying feeling. I remember one girl in particular. She came from Nigeria. She did not know much English at all. Even the low group was too advanced for her. I was thinking in February that she was going to be retained because she showed little growth. However, in April, voila, a miracle. She moved from the low group to the medium group and even to the high group. That is unbelievable. Moreover, I even recommended her for the top class in second grade. Her growth wouldn't have been made possible if I did not target those interventions to cater her needs. So, we see that without these targeted interventions, these students would not be successful. So it's important that we always address the actual needs of our students in order for them to succeed. Thank you.